False alarm. Good morning, everybody. My name is Justin Wilson. It is my pleasure to welcome you here to our worshiping community at First Universalist Church of Rochester. If this is your first time here this morning, we especially welcome you on this very warm morning. We're happy you could make it to our community. Just want to extend the welcome that you belong because you are here. Please remain after the service for coffee hour and connection in the Clara Barton Lounge. Those attending online, want to remind you that there's also a coffee hour online. So stick around after that for discussion. You do have to supply your own coffee, though. There is a visitor's form that can be found on the back of your order of service and a QR code, or you can click the link in the chat. Please fill this out so we can offer you a welcome beyond what we can offer you here this morning. If you're looking to be part of our welcoming ministry, we have a number of roles we would love for you to serve in. You can email MJ Curry if you're interested in being part of that coffee hour service. That's definitely encouraged, and that you would partner with others is also encouraged. We also have Pride Parade sign-ups in the Clara Barton Lounge. It is next Saturday, already upon us. And if you're interested in being part of an LGBTQ plus social circle or social justice group, we're looking to launch that. So see me afterwards if you're interested, so we can start figuring out how we can launch that. Before we take a moment to turn towards each other, let's take a moment to turn towards the online community and offer a wave to the camera backed by the Progress Pride flag. You can pop into the chat and offer a greeting. And before we turn to each other, Kitty has a brief announcement from our music director.
Good morning, everybody. I have an announcement from our beloved Dr. Brock Tischwold, who is now the director of the Finger Lakes Opera, music director. And he wanted me to let you know that next Sunday, July 20th at 2 p.m. at the Robert F. Panera Theater at RIT will be one performance of The Anonymous Lover. And it is starring Jonathan Pierce Rhodes, an amazing tenor. I did hear him sing at the Juneteenth performance at Mount Olivet. He's amazing. And also young artists from the Finger Lakes Opera and choreography from the Garth Fagan Dance. So you can get tickets online at fingerlakesopera.com, or I'm sure you can buy them at the door. But I think it would be well worth going to this performance. So thank you.
We have some amazing talent. We are so welcome and so honored to have Dr. Brock with us during the rest of the year. All right, now we can take a moment to greet each other and say hello to our neighbor this morning.
And now we welcome you to join us in an opening hymn. As soon as you can hear this announcement and get to your seats, it'll be lovely. Our opening hymn this morning is a wonderful "The Morning Hangs a Single." Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Osta, and as a worship associate, I share in a sign-up system with the whole group for taking turns for Sunday mornings. I don't think it was a conspiracy, for those theories are not my style, but I do wonder how I ended up, as I gear up this month to celebrate a significant decade birthday, to be responsible for sharing words on aging. I'm just saying. 15 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Because I am still alive, I can say for me, it was ultimately a gift. For more than a year of treatment, surgery, and a port failure, I got to stare mortality in the face and breathe deeply into the abyss of the future and let go. I got to edit a book titled Life Shifts, Stories of Hope, for those who face this frightening diagnosis. I continue to sit at the feet of those who have shared their stories, their strength, and courage. The goodness that has resulted from my diagnosis hasn't ended. I continue to learn that I am stronger than I thought, that fear can be banished and replaced by courage, compassion, and gratitude. My treatments were administered by one of the best, who ultimately became a very dear friend, Kitty. It doesn't get much better than that. I now look at aging as a privilege, a terrific beauty. I'm not certain if there's an expiration on using chemobrain for an excuse for my word retrieval issues, but it somehow softens the blow. I find the alternative to aging unappealing. I often spend time with seniors. Folks in their 90s fascinate me, many of them right here. They have their priorities settled, wisdom to share with laughter that comes easily. Their stories are surprising and inspiring. A most recent inspiration I have found has become a favorite, from Meryl Streep, who said upon attaining the age of 75, "Aging is not for the weak. One day you wake up and realize that your youth is gone, but along with it, so goes insecurity, haste, and the need to please. You learn to walk more slowly, but with greater certainty. You say goodbye without fear, and you cherish those who stay. Aging means letting go. It means accepting. It means discovering that beauty was never in our skin, but in the story we carry inside us. On occasion, we have been called an older congregation, and oh, what stunning stories we carry inside us. Let us go forth cherishing the beauty of our stories and celebrating the gifts that aging brings. Come, let us worship together. As Denise Swingle, Clinton's sister, comes forward to light our chalice, we welcome her to First Universalist, and as you light a chalice in your own words and own homes, please help join in the chalice lighting words spoken in unison. May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit. And may we reach out to serve the community. Please rise in body or in spirit for our affirmation of faith, followed by the song offering. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To well together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to prove humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
Amen.
Every Sunday, we pause to remind ourselves that sharing our financial gifts helps fuel the funds that make our church thrive. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps us stay connected with each other and our common commitment to nurture the Spirit and serve the community. This Sunday's offering goes to our church community. Next Sunday's offering will be our social justice plate. Please place your offering in the offering basket or give online by scanning the QR code on the back of your order of service. This is also a great time to place visitors' forms in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you all for your generosity. This morning's offering will now be gratefully received.
And at this time, if you have brought food for the food-in gathering, you may bring it up. Each and every Sunday morning, we take time with each other for the sharing of joys and concerns. When we share with one another our personal highs and lows, we enlarge our circle of love and strengthen our caring for one another. I invite you all now into this sacred time where we share what's in our hearts and on our minds. If you would like to, you can place a hand over your heart to be able to listen from a heart-centered place. We know that so very, very much is going on in our world today, and if you have sorrows or joys on behalf of our national or global community, you are truly encouraged to do so today and into the future. As Elizabeth Osta places stones in the bowl, I will read aloud the joys and sorrows of our gathered community. All online are also invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. From Elizabeth Osta, with hope that my brother Tom has a successful move to his assisted living place. A sorrow and joy from Hal Bauer. Planned Parenthood locally reports that 2/3 of their health center patients pay through Medicaid and that hasn't got anything to do with abortion. The current federal cut for all services will cut family planning, birth control, preventative screenings, STI treatments, and other things. We're doubling our small monthly sustaining contribution to help all women with choices. From Dwight Montague, a new nephew arrived Tuesday, and we welcome Ethan Rowan Montague. Mom and baby are doing well. A joy from Tom and Carol Williams. On Friday evening, we attended our 60th high school reunion. When did all of those people get so old? Right on the theme today. A sorrow from Kitty Forbish. My dear brother-in-law, Don, passed away on Wednesday. On a positive note, my sister is surrounded by her amazing children and friends. From Patricia Stott, because of yet another fall on Thursday, Keith is now permanently in a wheelchair. From Lisa Gwinner, Charlie and Brendan fly home today from Florida, where they participated in a wonderful celebration of Dad and Granddad Don Kortzel's life. Many thanks to everyone who checked in with me while they've been gone. Today we share in a community ritual to honor the many joys and sorrows we bring into this space, whether read aloud or kept in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. In a moment, those here in person are invited to come forward and drop stones into the bowl. If you need to remain seated, please raise your hand and someone can come to you with a bowl and you may drop stones in. If you are joining us online, please use your reaction buttons to indicate a heart, and please place a heart into the chat if you feel so moved. Let us join now together in this collective ritual of honoring the joys and sorrows of all of us. Many unspoken concerns and celebrations live in the heart, and we recognize each of them now, even as they have been offered in silence. Now the circle of our care is drawn larger. May it increase forevermore. I invite you now to join with me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. Eternal Beloved, that which is greater than ourselves, hear our prayer of affirmation. Today is the day. Today is our day. Gone are the days when we slumbered unaware of the blessings that we are. We follow the path of inherent worth. Gone are the days when we did not embrace that the Spirit of life moves through and with us. We follow the path of prophetic witness. Gone are the days when we allowed the urgency of others' expectations to dictate our lives. We follow the path of serenity. Gone are the days when rest was forbidden as a delicacy reserved only for when we are bone dry. We follow the path of perpetual renewal and spiritual growth. Gone are the days when we felt as if we are not enough. We follow the path of grace. Today is the day. This is our day. May we be bold in our faith, declaring that gone are the days. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are the blessings we seek for this world, and we are the beloved community that we are building. Ask, and it may be so. Blessed be. Amen. I invite everyone now to join us in our hymn of contemplation, number 123, Spirit of Life. Thank people for coming out on this very, very warm day. So I hope everyone is using your fans. So if I have, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, I'm sure I have. but I am a big fan of the sitcoms of the 1970s. These were the television shows of my formative years, and syndicated reruns have meant that I have seen my favorites many times over the years. Just ask my husband. One of my enduring favorites is The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Certain episodes have stayed with me since the first time that I saw them, and one such episode is called Lou's First Date. Briefly, Mary's curmudgeonly boss, Lou Grant, has recently been left by his wife, and he was having a rough time coping with being newly single. And there was a big dinner coming up at work, and he needed a date to accompany him. At a complete and total loss about how to accomplish this, he asks Mary to find him a date. And in the kind of mix-up that only can happen in sitcom land, Mary arranges for him to meet a lovely widow about his age, Mrs. Dudley. Mrs. Dudley is intelligent and she's cultured. She's a friend of Rhoda's. We all loved Rhoda. And Rhoda thinks that Mrs. Dudley and Mr. Grant are really going to hit it off. However, somehow, when the night arrives, Mrs. Dudley's elderly mother-in-law shows up instead. Mary had apparently not realized when she called Mrs. Dudley that there were actually two Mrs. Dudleys in the household, one in her 50s and another one in her late 80s. And so by mistake, she had invited the elder Mrs. Dudley to be Lou's date for the banquet. Now, this mix-up, of course, is milked for all of the humors that the writers can get out of the situation. Lou is appalled and embarrassed to be seen with someone old enough to be his mother. The other characters find the whole thing very amusing, and Mary, of course, is mortified that she so badly botched such an important assignment. But at heart, Mrs. Dudley's age is the punchline. As if the mere existence of older people is inherently funny. And the storyline uses every old age trope and cliche in the book to emphasize just how ridiculous and how absurd and hysterical it is to depict an older person attempting to fully participate normally in everyday life. Mrs. Dudley, though yes, cultured, kind, and polite, is nonetheless feeble and forgetful and failing. She has trouble with her sight. She has trouble with her hearing. She has trouble with her mobility. And every time she encounters an obstacle created by her infirmity, she says good-naturedly in this thin, trembly, wavering little voice, "Well, these eyes don't see like they used to." She needs help pinning on the corsage that Lou has brought her, and she says as he pins it on her, "These old fingers don't always do what I tell them to." And when she needs help walking, she says, "These old legs don't always do everything I tell them to." And it's not just her body that is failing, it seems, either. Like any good old person in a sitcom worth her salt, she seems completely oblivious to the technological developments of modern life. When she meets Ted Baxter, remember Ted Baxter, the anchor man, she says, "Mr. Baxter, you look familiar to me." And he replies arrogantly, "Well, you've probably seen me on television." To which Mrs. Dudley replies inexplicably, "No, I don't watch television. I have a fireplace." Mrs. Dudley is a stereotype brought to life for us to laugh at. And yet, it all feels as innocent as laughing at a knock-knock joke, as American as a slice of apple pie. And much of the reason for this is the fact that no one actually makes fun of Mrs. Dudley. She does that herself so that no one else has to do it for her. She willingly offers herself up for a unique form of benign ridicule that our society reserves for older people. By voluntarily disparaging herself, and by extension all older people, with all of the old familiar tropes about just how inept and how irrelevant we all become supposedly with the passage of time. Now, I'm sure that Mrs. Dudley's character was easy for the writers to craft. Our culture is replete with such characters. And I doubt that any thought was even given to whether or not anyone would be offended by their depiction of her as addled and decrepit. They knew, I'm sure, that they were on safe narrative ground here. After all, the actress herself, though perhaps not quite as old as the character she was playing, was elderly nonetheless, and she was a willing participant in all this, wasn't she? And this situation is hardly unique. Aren't most of us, at least to some extent, guilty of perpetuating this stereotype? And as I have now reached the age where I can collect my Social Security, I have been thinking a lot about this phenomenon recently and noticing all the ways that so many of us, myself included, perpetuate this view of older people as diminished and somehow less relevant members of society. I am constantly struck by how many people around me are voluntarily going around playing Mrs. Dudley. And far from being a harmless little affectation, I am coming to believe that we are all doing ourselves, our peers, and our society a great disservice. Now, at the risk of being exclusionary for a minute, I want to address my over 55 friends who are here this morning. And I just want to ask you to do a little reflection and see, do you ever find yourself saying any of these things? Don't bother telling me your name. These days I forget as soon as I hear them. I just had my daughter set up my new phone. Why, those young people, they understand all this technology stuff way better than people our age do. How about this one? My 5-year-old grandson had to show me how to turn on my new smart TV. It's so complicated, I just leave it on one channel all the time. I can't adjust to these new cars. I can never remember where I have put that stupid fob. This is one of my favorites. 1993? You were born in 1993? Why, you're just a baby. Why, I had been married 20 years and had 3 teenagers at home by then. And then, of course, there is the countless parade of physical complaints. You can call me as late as you want. Us old people never sleep. I can't see or hear anything anymore. If I danced like that, I'd be in bed for a week. Then there's my hip, my wrist, my knee, my back. Fill in the body part. Was killing me last night. I don't like to go out after dark anymore. So what I've noticed is that in the past few years, my own peers, people my age, have started saying these things, and unless I stop myself, I say some of them too. It's almost as if we're unconsciously claiming a birthright after we pass a certain age, and now we've earned the right to parrot all of those things that we've always heard older people say. Back when I was in my 30s, I worked with a woman who was in her early 60s, the same age that I am now. Kathy was highly educated, she was very bright, and she was extremely witty. She was very good at her job, and she had lots of wisdom to impart, but she also did have a few habits that annoyed people. She was constantly asking the rest of us to interface with technology for her. She'd type a document, and then she'd call one of us to come in and print it for her. My education stopped with the typewriter, she used to like to say. And a few of my coworkers who were patient would go in and they would try to show her how to print. Look, they'd say, it's easy. Just move this little cursor up to the little printer icon and then click on it, I'd hear one of them say. And Kathy would reply, oh, this is too complicated. I'm never going to get the hang of this. And the other thing that got on people's nerves was that she would constantly plead poor memory. Oh, I'm having one of my senior moments, she'd say, whenever she forgot something that she was about to say or when she missed a deadline that she was supposed to keep. We used to have a staff meeting every week, and our boss would be going over the to-do list from the week before. And when she got to Kathy asking how something was coming along, Kathy would often put her hand to her forehead and say in a very distressed voice, "Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I must have been having one of my senior moments when you asked me to do that." And then she'd say, "Can I get it to you next week?" Now, at the time, I never questioned any of this at all. In my relatively youthful state, I just assumed that Kathy was doing the very best that she could, and that I was witnessing the inevitable fate of everyone over 50. And because I hoped that I would also be given forbearance when I reached her advanced age, I helped her, I covered for her, and I reassured her whenever her lapses affected something that she and I were working on together. In recent years, however, now that I'm the age that Kathy was then, I'm reevaluating some of this. As I myself am now that age, and like her, I am one of the oldest people now in my workplace, I sometimes find myself falling into the same pattern that she was exhibiting back then. And if I'm being honest, this is real honesty, laziness and feelings of being overwhelmed play a much bigger role in my lapses than do any real loss of ability. When I think back to working with Kathy, she never seemed to do anything to compensate for these memory lapses. She didn't take notes in meetings, for example, which probably would have helped. And it was very clear that she was completely uninterested in learning anything about how to use her computer. She wanted others to do it for her. Okay, so I will confess that I have at times been guilty of those same two things. I used to have an excellent memory, and I never needed to write anything down. I could keep track of appointments and due dates all in my head without any effort at all. And now that that quality has begun to fail me at times, I know that I should take the proactive step and of writing things down and doing other kinds of things to remind myself. Or better yet, I could probably learn to program my phone to remind me of those things. But since I trust you all, I will admit I don't do either. Writing things down just feels like such a tedious task, and as for programming my phone, I get anxious just thinking about it. And as for the technology in the workplace, every marking period, I bother poor Laura Smith, the 30-something teacher across the hall from me, when it's time to create and print my report cards. We have to use this fussy, very non-user-friendly program called School Tool, and I never can remember the commands and the steps of how to do it. Now, more confession. I could actually pay attention carefully when she does it and take notes and practice doing it on my own. But I just want to get them done without all of the fuss, and she can go click, 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 and they print. And while she's doing this, there's always a little voice inside me saying, "This is too complicated. You're never going to understand this." And I know, even though no one would say it and no one has said it, that my younger coworkers give me a pass on some of these things because of my age. But if I'm being honest, I know that I actually could do all of these things if I exercised patience, discipline, and had a can-do spirit about it. And if I'm honest, I'm often kind of taking advantage of my younger coworkers when I let them do something for me because I have presented myself as too old to do it. But recently, I have begun to see the folly of falling into this habit. Whenever I play Mrs. Dudley, I'm selling myself short, I'm letting my peers down, and I am normalizing ageism. I think in many ways, ageism is one of the only acceptable isms left. It seems like a harmless one, so benign that most of us, on some level anyway, volunteer to perpetuate it. And when we reach a certain age, most of us at times are guilty of playing Mrs. Dudley, often for laughs, and often to give ourselves a pass on being fully engaged in the world that we live in now. But far from being a bit of harmless fun or a right that we've earned, I believe we do real damage when we play Mrs. Dudley, and we and our peers may face real consequences for doing that. In the current state of our nation, older adults no longer have the luxury of playing Mrs. Dudley for a number of very important reasons. We are aging as a nation. In 1950, just 8% of Americans were 65 and older. In 2023, that number had more than doubled to 17%. And by 2050, which is just 25 years from now, that percentage will be, it's projected to be anyway, 22%. And there are fewer younger people out there to provide help and care. 19% of people over the age of 65 are still working, and that figure was only 11% of people in 1987. And while yes, I know that there are some people in that age group who work so that they can have extra spending money or something to do, many of those people, especially single women, are working because they have to. My own mother worked until 3 weeks before she died at age 76 because she needed the money. People like that literally cannot afford to play Mrs. Dudley, and they can't afford to have us playing her either. They need to be seen as competent, capable, vital people with skills, people who can make a valuable contribution in the workplace, people who are still able to learn and grow, people who are up to challenges. And every time any one of us takes the easy way out and plays Mrs. Dudley rather than challenging ourselves, we make it just that much harder for all of the rest of us and all of those people who really have to be seen as competent. And at this critical point in our history, we can't afford an entire marginalized generation of people running around. Our political leaders must see older people as engaged and competent and worthy people. People who are fully up to the task of challenging them, and holding them accountable. We must also expect more of ourselves for our own well-being and for the well-being of our loved ones. We should all remain open and willing to learn, and open to growing and challenging ourselves and changing. After many years of doing this, which by that I mean preaching, I have become pretty good at predicting the ways that I might be challenged as I greet people after the service. So let me say a few things in anticipation of those conversations. I am in no way denying the real challenges of aging. Our bodies really do start to have issues, and they need more upkeep. Most of us over a certain age all have a health issue or two. I am not suggesting that we could or even should pretend that we aren't in pain when we are, or that we're not experiencing a limitation when we clearly are. Nor am I suggesting that we strive to present ourselves as younger than we are either. I have a cousin who invests an inordinate amount of time to looking as young as she possibly can. She goes for Botox injections, and she makes a conscious effort wherever she goes with her daughter to present herself as her daughter's sister rather than her mother. So this is not at all what I am advocating. There is nothing wrong with presenting to the world our real chronological age. What I am instead calling for is a remaking of the image of older people as we actually are. In a society where the entire demographic is aging, we just can't afford to voluntarily play Mrs. Dudley and encourage the world to see us as worn out of step, irrelevant people whose infirmities are comical, whose values are out of date, and whose concerns are of no consequence. We must instead become better at recognizing and calling out ageism when we spot it, even in ourselves. And we must stop perpetuating it ourselves by stepping into the role of Mrs. Dudley whenever we are feeling tired or overwhelmed. We have a duty to ourselves, to our peers and to our communities to continue to challenge ourselves wherever and whenever we can. Now, does this mean denying our real limitations and refusing to ask for help when we really need it? Of course not. It means instead that we embrace the little challenges that we face every day with patience and optimism and discipline. And that we don't trot out tired cliches about aging every time we encounter an obstacle and automatically assume our age is the reason that we aren't grasping something. A few years ago, Nan, a friend's mother who had just turned 90, was sent for cognitive testing at the doctor's insistence. It's standard protocol for people her age, my friend was told. Now, Nan's family had not noticed anything at all of any concern. Yes, in recent years, Nan had become a little forgetful. She did little things like misplacing her car keys, mixing up a date, or forgetting someone's name here and there. So the family was surprised when the results of the testing came back and indicated that Nan had dementia. Now, my friend was initially concerned about this until he sat down with the doctor and they went over the test results in detail. The test revealed things like this. Nan could not count backwards by 7. She couldn't draw a clock face correctly showing the time 7:40. She had no idea who was president the year she was born. And she also couldn't calculate how much change she should get back when a theoretical shopping transaction was presented to her. Nan had blown several other questions like this, enough to score in the mild to moderate range for dementia. Peter, Mom couldn't have answered those questions when she was young, my friend told me when describing his talk with the doctor. Nan had grown up poor in the mountains of West Virginia. She had very little formal education, and she went to work at an age when the rest of us were mostly still in school. She married quite young, and she married at a time and in a place where the men handled the money. She probably never did any math in her whole life, and she didn't go far enough in school to study American history, my friend said. And yet, the automatic assumption on the part of the medical establishment was that Nan's advanced age was the only possible explanation for her lack of ability in answering those questions. And in this case, her doctor forced the role of Mrs. Dudley upon her without considering that there might be any other possible reasons for her test results. The teachers among us here this morning are no doubt familiar on some level with what are known as the reading wars. There are essentially 2 schools of thought when it comes to teaching reading. There's the traditional approach that most of us probably learned with, a heavy emphasis on phonics and sounding out words. And then there is the whole language approach. The whole language approach to reading instruction emphasizes immersing students in rich language experiences and focusing on the meaning of texts rather than breaking down words into their individual sounds. Now, the phonics approach fell out of favor probably at least 20 or more years ago, and universities and school districts wholeheartedly and enthusiastically embraced the whole language approach instead. And in the past few years, however, our love affair with whole language has ended, and the pendulum has completely swung back in the other direction, and we're now back to phonics. Now, of course, in order to sell a lot of expensive materials, the textbook companies have rebranded phonics with new terms and jargons. It is now marketed as the science of reading, and my colleagues and I have been sent to several expensive conferences to teach us what most of us have already understood since first grade. But of course, the new terms and the new jargons give the impression that this is something all brand new, something we've never seen before, and therefore we have to pay a lot of money for it. So I attended my first 3-day training in the science of reading in the fall of 2023. After we had our coffee and our continental breakfast, we settled into the banquet room to start this exciting new adventure in education. The presenter, who was, of course, by the way, a salesperson for the curriculum company, began her 3-day sales pitch by asking if there were any questions or comments from the room. Cheryl, a colleague of mine who is actually exactly the same age as I am, raised her hand and said, "This is all new to me, so could we please go slow? This old brain isn't as sharp as it used to be." And this, of course, elicited the familiar mixture of laughter and sympathy that Mrs. Dudley always receives whenever she presents herself. As the morning went on, Cheryl kept grumbling to the rest of us at our table. "I'm not following any of this," she says. "It all sounds like gibberish." And at one point, she leaned over and said, "Who ever heard of morphology?" Another woman at our table finally leaned over to Cheryl and said, "Morphology just means the study of prefixes and suffixes and how they alter the meaning of a root word." And I could see the epiphany register in Cheryl's face, and she stopped grumbling. When we broke apart for lunch, Cheryl announced to the table, "Oh, I feel so stupid. She's just talking about phonics." "I guess your old brain is sharper than you thought it was," the woman who explained morphology to her chuckled. "I guess you're right," Cheryl agreed. "Maybe this new math training we have coming up next week won't be so bad either." And I invite you to rise one more time in the heat and sing our closing hymn, number 128, "For All That Is Our Life." Please remain standing as Elizabeth Osta extinguishes our chalice flame this morning, and let us read together the words printed on the screen. "We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again." As we close our service this morning, I invite you to place again a hand over your heart. If you are joining us online, I invite you to turn your settings to gallery view and look upon the faces who have been here with you this morning. And for those of us in the room, take a moment to look around who is here with you today. Within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions. Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need of help both in body and spirit, that they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world. Go forth and share your glorious, glorious inner light with the world. And to this let us say together, Amen. Everyone is invited to join the coffee hour after the service in the Clara Barton Lounge or online in your current Zoom meeting. We hope to see everyone there.